appreciate that. Thank you. So, okay, Mr. Luna, I'm turning it over to you. Thank you so much.
Hey folks, good evening. My name is Dylan Michael Luna, and I'll be the moderator for tonight. In my day job, I serve as a local attraction manager at the Michigan Economic Loan Corporation. And in the evenings, I serve as the treasurer of the Flint School Board.
You know what the lights at? You on the
That was a
school board.
pretty good night. Good questions. Some great candidates. I'm glad that you want to speak to them. So I'll begin with the U.S. House of Representatives. The candidates on the Democratic side are Matt Collier, Dr. Pamela Pugh, and Senator Kristen McDonald-Ribbit. On the Republican side, they are Mary Drees, Anthony J. Hudson, and Paul Young. So I'll start with the first question. We'll start with Mr. Collier from the row. Please tell us about yourself and share your platform. We're going to pass the mic down.
Is this a 2-minute one?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, look, I care for this community deeply. I care for this country deeply. I was born and raised here in Flint. Spent a lot of time actually right across the street at the IMA Sports Arena playing hockey and working there as well. I went to Gundry. I lived near Gundry. I actually went to Gundry for kindergarten, but I lived in the North End near Gundry for 17 years. Then I went to West Point, United States Military Academy, and served my country in the U.S. Army, achieving the status of Airborne Ranger. While I was in the Army, I was recruited back here to work for Dale Kildee, Dan's uncle, who was in Congress for 35 years. I was his district director. I was in charge of the Flint office and all the constituent services. And while I was doing that, Flint was struggling. And I decided that rather than sit on the sidelines, I wanted to be part of the solution, and I ran for mayor. And I won, and we added thousands of jobs. We reduced crime 20% over the course of 4 years and balanced 4 consecutive budgets. So I'm fiscally responsible. And I think this thread of service goes throughout my career, and accomplishment goes throughout my career, getting things done. And I think that's what we need in Congress. After I was mayor, I went to Harvard, received a master's degree in public administration. I knew I would serve again. I spent some time in the private sector as a CEO and business owner. And I've got 30 seconds. And thank you. And I was recruited back into the Obama administration to be a very senior leader in the Department of Veterans Affairs. I did that for 2.5 years, and then Dan decided to retire. And again, I wanted to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Pamela Pugh, and I've lived in this district for 52 of my 53 years of life. I live in Saginaw, Michigan, and I am a scientist. I've worked in public health for 25 years of my life. I started 14 years at Saginaw County Health Department. When I was there, most of my work centered around children's environmental health issues, bringing in almost $10 million. And those dollars were used to not only improve the health and the environments in which children and families live, but also to provide economic opportunities for those families, putting them at the forefront of solving their issues, our issues, and also educating community members, also providing business opportunities for small businesses there as we brought in those millions of dollars. I worked here in Flint in the Karen Williams Weaver administration as the Chief Public Health Advisor. And I am currently the president of the State Board of Education. I've served on the board for almost 10 years and was elected in 2014. I was elected in a year when very few Democrats crossed the finish line successfully. Won again in 2022 with over 2 million votes, and won this district with +6 percentage points. So I have been elected before in this district. What I have seen is that we live in a district where a poverty level is less than 10%, which is better than that of the state, better than that of the U.S., of the country. But when we look at communities like Saginaw, like Flint, that percentage rate of poverty goes up to 36%. That is unacceptable. We have been left behind. We need people who, in Washington, D.C., who understand our diverse communities. I'm running to ensure economic dignity for all, making sure that we put the people first, and promises made are promises kept.
Well, good evening. My name is Mary Drees, and I'm a Republican running in Michigan's 8th Congressional District. I too am a native Michigander and lived my 55 years in the district. I grew up on a dairy farm, and I come from family business. I put myself through college. I worked full-time and went to school part-time to earn my bachelor's and master's, and I'm a scientist too, Pamela. So very excited to see a fellow nerd on the stage with me. I spent my entire life really looking at how to innovate to get jobs, whether it be from my time in my family's business. My family has owned a business in the area or in this district for over 70 years. Or if it's my work through 4-H and agricultural programs, providing leadership for students, or if it's just, really in all the volunteer work that I've done, all the groups that I've gone and worked with, about bringing innovation and jobs back to our community. I think for me, I've been called to this. I have a passion for service. This role is really important about serving all of you in this audience, the entire community, about making sure that you get what you need, that we're here to serve you. So for me, I knew that after I retired, there was something else for me, and I'm being called to this. It's very important as we look to what's next is that you have a candidate that not only serves you, but understands that, and many times the people I've talked to, they feel like they've been forgotten. And they've been forgotten and no one really cares. So I think that as a candidate in this particular race that you'll know that you'll have me caring about you in the community because I lived here, I'm from here, I know what goes on here. For me, the three most important things in the platform are the idea of energy independence, which means that the U.S. can grow and innovate because we have energy here, not relying on it abroad. The safety and security of our borders, both in the north and the south, to stop the flow of fentanyl and other drugs coming into our communities. And then also the last thing is jobs, and more jobs, economic development for the businesses that are here, and then how do we bring other businesses here. What we want to make sure is that you are not forgotten. And I feel that these areas have been forgotten.
Well, thank you all. I forgot to mention, but you all displayed this your dignity and just your grace. But just as a reminder for you all and future candidates who come up, as they did, let's focus on the issues and not people. Just keep it clean. You guys displayed, so thank you very much. Cool. All right. So next question. All right, what specific policies or initiatives do you propose to promote economic growth and job creation in this district?
Okay, so as a congressman is a little bit different, but as mayor, the same principles apply. When I took office, we had a 24% unemployment rate. Now, these 2 minutes also, these questions are good. We had a 24% unemployment rate. And what I did is I worked with and through the businesses that were here, and we added 7,000 jobs. 7,000 jobs, that's a lot. We kept 11 GM plants running the entire time, with one exception, of Fisher One, which was retrofitted into the largest technology center at the time in the world, 1.25 million square feet of space. So economic development, though, is multifold. So not only do we need to work with the companies in the district and make it good for them to work here, but also attract other new businesses here. And the way that you do that is you go to them and you ask them what their needs are. A lot of times it's about education and training for our kids. Education and training for our kids are very, very important. Whether it's in the technical trades, not everybody's going to go to college necessarily, technical trades or higher education. So that's one, education and training. We have a highly skilled workforce we need to take advantage of. Another area is our infrastructure. A lot of times you need to provide roads, sewer, water, whatever it happens to be, as necessary for the companies that are here, already here, and the companies that want to get here. And there's nothing wrong with working. I've been in the private sector for a long time, and so there's nothing wrong with government and the private sector working together to figure out a future. And that's what we need to do. That's what I did as I was mayor, and I've done it. I've actually done it and lived it. And I'll do it again in Congress. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. The question was, what specific policies or initiatives do you propose to promote economic growth and job creation in our district?
Well, first I think, I commend those who are here before you, because I think we first have to make sure that we are prioritizing the people and making sure that we're recognizing, how we are being funded to run for office, because that is who we will prioritize. And so my first thought is prioritizing the people. Then making sure that the policies that have been passed, there have been some, I'll call them good policies. Whether we're talking about the infrastructure package, whether we're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act or ARPA dollars. But the issue is, how do those dollars get to the people? So making sure that we are sending people to represent us, who know us, will prioritize us, value us, and I will make sure that I do that because I am us. So that's first and foremost. So understanding those packages, but also making sure that those bills then get to the people. Because I mentioned those statistics, those grave statistics that we see. It doesn't matter how good those bills are and those bill packages are, if they don't make it to the edge of the street, then they mean nothing. They're not good policy. So as a policymaker who has worked at the local level, who has worked at the state level, who has worked with the federal government, making sure that we are getting those policies that then the people actually realize, and making sure that we're not living from grant to grant to grant. We've got to get off that cycle as well. So always staying connected with the people as well.
Thank you, Pam. I would say one of the things for me that's really important is tax structure. I talk to a lot of people across the district, and we're going to see some tax policy expire next year that's going to be, frankly, really difficult for all of us in the room, all of you and all the businesses that you may frequent. So I think for economic development, yes, we have to go out, we have to learn how to economic art and help those businesses that are here, attract new businesses, but we also have to do things like have solid tax policy that puts more money back in your pockets, back in the pockets of your businesses, so they can share that with their employees, but also reinvest. I think that bad tax policy does damage to us in terms of our businesses don't want to reinvest. If they have to pay 10 or 12% more, they're not going to reinvest that capital. So I think it's very important that we look at tax policy in a way that's productive for everybody in this room, but also for all of our businesses. The market needs to drive the decisions also. I think that my husband and I own a business. We've created jobs. Like my fellow candidates, we know how to do those things because we've done them. We've done them our entire lives. So I think it's very important that when you're selecting a candidate, that you look at a candidate who has done just that, who has a proven track record of experiences that can help continue economic development in this community.
All right. Back to you, Mr. Drees. The next question. For the first time in almost half a century, it is possible for a person to be elected who is not from this county. Why should Flint residents vote for you?
I think that's what's really important is that you have somebody from the district. I mean, that somebody who's been here, who's lived here, who's been across this district their whole lives. I've done that. My husband and I have invested our time here. We don't just live in Midland. I mean, we've gone across all the other counties. We've had engagement in all the other counties. My husband does business here in Genesee County. We do business in Flint. In Saginaw and Bay. We've invested in the universities that we both went to, Saginaw Valley. We've invested there also. So I think the most important thing, though, is that you pick a candidate that's from here. I mean, for me, that's very important. I mean, I think that candidates like us who are from the district understand the district. We understand the people here. And there's always opportunity for us to learn. I don't know every nook and cranny of all this district, and so it's my job to come and meet you where you are, understand your issues, listen and act. And as your Congresswoman, I will do just that.
When you look at Saginaw, when you look at Flint, first of all, we are sister cities, and that is where I've lived for 52 of my 53 years of life. I have shown up, not just across this district, whether it was working at Dow in Midland, or whether it was doing a cleanup site, radioactive cleanup site in Bay City, or working on childhood lead poisoning in Bay City, and working here in Flint with you all at the height of the Flint water crisis. Or whether it was down the street when 7 children, school children from Detroit, sued the state of Michigan, and as a state board member, they sued me, and I crossed over and helped them to sue the state of Michigan, including myself, for a right to literacy. I have shown up, and I will continue to show up. And my fight is, again, to right the wrongs that have been done to the people of Flint, to make sure that that does not happen in any other community, to make sure that our government works for us, regardless of our race, regardless of our economic background, who we know, who we don't know, and what our zip code is. I will show up for Flint like I've shown up for all of our other communities, and as I have here in this county, Genesee County.
Well, I would personally prefer the person from Genesee County. Because I am. Look, I was born and raised here, as I said before. My grandparents were from here. They both worked in GM before and after the UAW was legitimized. In fact, one worked at Fisher 1 during the sit-down strike, which did legitimize the UAW. The other had 2 fingers taken off in a press one time in Buick, and worked that afternoon just to get his job back, to make sure that he got his job back, which is why the UAW was born. And Flint was the Silicon Valley of the 1920s and the 1930s. I think we all know that from Flint, but I know Flint like the back of my hand. I know Genesee County like the back of my hand. No pun intended, of course, as all Michiganders. But I would serve the rest of the district as well. I'm from here. I understand the people here. I served as mayor here. I ran a congressional office here. I love being here. And I would do a good job for you, and I would appreciate your support.
Thank you. So we'll start with Dr. Pugh. Question number 5, who won the last presidential election in 2020? Please explain.
So last presidential election, President Biden, Joe Biden, won the election. The people voted him in, and it's just as simple as that. I don't know any more to that question, or more response to that.
Yeah, I would agree. Joe Biden won narrowly. I think there are a couple of things that we need to take away from that. Is I think that I worked elections in 2020, and I think it was my first election that I worked, and I learned a lot about the system. So I would challenge everybody in this room to get involved in election process. I think it's a really great learning, and you also understand then how everything works. I think it's really important too that we implement voter ID laws. That we have that in future elections. I think that's very important.
I would remind the audience to not engage with the candidates. Thank you. Let's be respectful.
I just want to make sure, in case you didn't hear, but I did say that Joe Biden won the last election.
I think Joe Biden won the election because he's a decent man. And I'm not sure the same is true for the opponent this year.
Thank you, candidates. All right, we have 2 more questions left for our candidates for U.S. House. Next question, if it goes to Mr. Collier, Dr. Pugh, Ms. Graves. What solutions do you propose to address the student debt crisis?
So one of the things that I would propose, one of the things that can help reduce the polarizations in this country is the idea of national service. National service for students from, say, 18 to 23 in that neighborhood. I mean, there are a lot of things that can be done, and I'm not talking about national service just in terms of the Marine Corps or the U.S. Army or service as soldiers or service members, but for people to give rides to veterans, to hospitals, to drive ambulances, to serve environmentally, do cleanup and things like that. But I think that would bring the country closer together and reduce some of that polarization. At the same time, there could be some quid pro quo when students do national service for debt retirement. I also think we ought to do everything we can to provide Pell Grants and other grants for students at reasonable rates. And Congress ought to hold the lenders accountable for not gouging these students in the future.
I appreciate the administration and for what they've done to push loan forgiveness, and that is definitely something that I have advocated and will continue to advocate for. We should make sure that our students, as they're coming out, to be meaningful citizens, to gain employment, that they're not starting off in debt. So I am a proponent, a strong proponent in loan forgiveness. There are quite a few opportunities that we continue to look at for free college, especially community college, and just making sure that our college system, our education, post-secondary system is affordable and accessible to all. And you know, I will put this chime in for K through 12, making sure that Michigan's not at the bottom when it comes to educating our K through 12 system, especially for certain communities, such as the one that we're living in now, and Saginaw. There was a recent study that came out when we looked at our education system. It was a national study, and it looked at the difference between communities. Saginaw came up as having the highest differential, while they looked at 25,000 cities and school districts across the country. While it was 5% differential between most of those districts on average, Saginaw had a differential of 45% between Saginaw and Frankenmuth. So when we look, those are poverty level rates. So we need to make sure that our students are set up to be able to compete from the beginning so that they can get scholarship and they don't have to take the loans. And so we have to look at these things together. We have to look at K through 12 system coupled with our post-secondary and definitely making sure that there's loan forgiveness on the other end.
I sit on the Saginaw Valley State University Foundation Board. I went to school there, and my husband and I are both very active in providing opportunities for students. We struggle with this very conversation, and I think first you have to make school affordable. You have to make school affordable, and then as you leave, are you going to be able to have a role? I'm not a proponent of the significant loan forgiveness that we're seeing, but I would say that at the university, what we're doing is we're making costs affordable. And you can go to school, we'll help you find a job if you need a job, but we're very focused on making sure that students have the things that they need through scholarships, through grants, so that they can afford to go to school and make sure that they can pay for it at the same time.
Thank you. So we have one more question. Following that, we'll have a closing for each candidate, and we'll start with Mr. Drees. You know, as a freshman in the House, one of 135 members, what is your strategy for making an impact, especially if your party is not controlling the chamber?
Well, I think this seat could actually decide who controls the chamber, and I think we all know that. I mean, this is a very important election, and we strongly encourage you to go out and vote, and I'm really excited to see so many people here this evening, because this is how you become informed about candidates that you'd like to choose. I think, the strategy for me and how you would be a freshman is, one, is you have to understand your constituents. Two, you have to ask them. And three, you listen. And I had somebody ask me on Sunday, they said, how would you make decisions if you're in the seat and you're a congresswoman? And I said, I will make decisions carefully, thoughtfully, and pragmatically. And I think that's very important in the candidate that you are going to select. This seat is, like I said, an extremely important seat. We need to think very carefully about what it is that's best for this district, and I believe that I would be the best for this district.
We have to be very thoughtful in making sure that we check check the track records of each of us. As my record will show, sitting on the State Board of Education, I've served under Governor Snyder. I've now served under Governor Whitmer. I've served on a 4-4 board where it's both Democratic and Republican split. And we've had to tackle very difficult issues. One was the closing of 38 schools. That meant that I had to go across the aisle and work with my Republican counterparts. Just last week, we passed a resolution around community and school safety that was bipartisan. So knowing when to stand firm, but also knowing when to work together with those across the aisle. When I worked here in the city of Flint, and I see Mayor Weaver out in the audience, we had to go to Washington, D.C. and work with the Trump administration. But that was because we valued the people were first, and it was always centering and making sure that we were focusing on bringing the resources necessary for the community. So going to Washington, D.C. as a freshman would be just like I do for the last 10 plus years and beyond in my professional career, as well as serving on the State Board of Education, is doing what is necessary to put the people first.
So for me, we have a dysfunctional Congress right now. I don't think there's any question about that. Not a lot gets done. It's not necessarily all about immigration or about the budget or about Ukraine or about whatever the salient issue is that you're reading about. The biggest problem is the calcification, the partisanship between the Republicans and the Democrats, as Pam just alluded to. And as a veteran, one of the things that I can see, what I would do as a strategy, we need some connective tissue to work together. And the reason, by the way, that I say that it's dysfunctional is because this is on pace, this Congress is on pace, as far as legislation is concerned, to be the least productive Congress in the history of our country. The least productive Congress in the history of our country. That's not very good. So we absolutely have to work together with Republicans and Democrats. And one of the ways to do that, as I said, I'm a veteran. And there are 19 Democrats in the House that are veterans. There are 63 Republicans that are veterans. Now, I don't intend to go into Congress and be some sort of partisan superstar. I want to get in there, roll up my sleeves, and get to work, and work with others to make things happen. As I mentioned at the beginning, I have a thread of service in my career, and a thread of getting a record of getting things done. That's the strategy that I would use and the tactic that I would primarily use to get things done in Congress.
Thank you. So good news, we're a bit ahead of schedule, so we have one more question before closing. Last question is, what are your thoughts on diversity, equity, and inclusion as pertains to government, business, and industry, and other aspects of American life? If elected, how will you ensure that your staff reflects all of your constituents? So Mr. Collier.
Well, there's nothing more important than diversity of thought. And again, actions speak louder than words. As mayor, I had more minority representation in my administration than the previous administration, which was an African American. So I pride myself in that. And I think diversity of thought across the spectrum is extremely important. And we ought to make sure that from a congressional, federal perspective, that we make sure that others, make companies and government accountable for keeping things in order as far as inclusion and diversity is concerned.
Again, I think we have to just check track records. What I would do is what I've done in my adult career. and that is to ensure that we have beyond diversity of thought, but we need to make sure that we have inclusion, and we need to make sure that we have policies that ensure justice and equity. And we know that as we look at the system in this wonderful country that we're in, but we also know that there have been decades upon decades of policy that force us or require us to make sure that we do everything that we can to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion for all that goes just beyond thought, but making sure that it shows up when we talk about those poverty levels where we no longer see Black and brown communities at the bottom, when we no longer see our education system be far behind for our Black and brown and low-income children, and making sure that we elect people who are also diverse, who bring diverse thought, who understand the diversity of communities, who we don't have to do a whole lesson to educate them on what we need. We need to send people who already know, who have experienced it. But going into Washington, D.C., I will definitely take that passion with me and all the work that I have done to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it is more than just a term, is more than just something that's intellectualized and talked about, but that the policies actually play out on the ground. So when ARPA dollars come, the people realize the benefits of ARPA dollars. When when IRA dollars come, the people that look like those of us in this room and those who are low income realize the benefits of those dollars. And so we need fighters, and that is who I am. That is what my record and the receipts will show.
I think that's most important that we hire the best and the brightest also. And I think that I agree with Matt that diversity of thought is probably one of the most important things we have, because we are too polarized. We have to have people who are willing to challenge, people who are willing to talk differently, people who are willing to listen. I think that's the number one thing when you're talking about anything that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's listening. It's understanding the people. And I think that for me, that's paramount. So I would say that it's extremely important that we have to listen to you to understand what it is that you want, and that we represent your interests when we go to Congress.
Folks, now we have our closing statements. We'll come Dr. Pugh.
And I'm happy we started here where we ended. When we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and people showing up who are diverse, and especially when we're talking about going to Washington, D.C., because we don't have any Black representation in this state the first time in 70 years. And what I'm talking about is not just about color of skin, it's not just about race. And when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we should automatically think that we're thinking about the best and the brightest, because how my parents prepared me was to go to school and get a Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering, a Master's of Science and a doctorate in Public Health from University of Michigan, one of the top universities. So going and showing up in Washington, D.C. and representing diversity also brings with it the best and the brightest. I will go to each corner of this district and make sure that I am representing and carrying the voice of the people, because that is what a representative does, is carry the voice of the people. I will make sure that my campaign is not beholden to anyone but the people. I am a grassroots campaign, and I'm not a part of the establishment, never have been and never will be. And so I ask that you elect diversity. We need diversity on our ticket. We need diversity so that people even show up to vote at the voting ballot. But I will guarantee you, you will have a fighter for you. You will have someone who is of the best and of the brightest. And I just ask that, and I've been endorsed by over 80 people, and you will have someone who does promote unity.
At the end of the day, all politics is local. And as I said before, I care for this country. And actions speak louder than words again. I'm a veteran. I care for this community. I was mayor here. I ran the district congressional office. In fact, yesterday I spent 4 hours walking through Evergreen Estates, talking to some of you, trying to find out what the issues are and what you really care about. Because like I said, all politics is local. I care deeply for this community. I will be a representative for all the districts. But I'm from here and I understand the community. I will fight for reproductive rights. I will fight for diversity. I will fight for jobs. I will fight to reduce crime. I will fight for the middle class. And I'd appreciate your support.
Thank you, man. So for me, the most important thing about this campaign or about running for office is service above self. And when we talk about this all the time, it's our job to serve you, and I think we've heard that from all three of us. We share that, and I appreciate that we're all focused on the right things, which is about people who are from here, ready to represent you and your interests, ready to listen to you, ready to talk to you, ready to represent you like you deserve to be represented, because we have been forgotten. And it's from my perspective, it's like you will never be forgotten again if I am your congresswoman. So I would appreciate your support also.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, candidates. You all have been gracious in your responses, professional, and we are so glad you came out to talk to us today about your policies and issues and ideas for this district. So everyone, round of applause for the candidates. All right, folks, some housekeeping items real quick. We'll do a 5-minute break. Next up, we have candidates for State House of Representatives. So 5-minute break. Oh, by the way, there's water in the back. Right there, and a blue cooler.
Like, can you get us water on the
Interview Miss Taylor right there real quick. That's the only way we can get her on 18. Sorry? We're going to interview you real quick. That's the only way we can get you on 18. That's How you doing? How you doing today, Miss Taylor? I want my hoop so I can be like you. We're the twins. The hoop twins. Oh, no, Mickey can't do
Oh, no, I can't wear that.
No, he can't wear no braces.
I can't wear
No, he can't wear that. No, we won't get a message.
I don't know. Thank you for allowing us to come. Huh?
Yes, my head goes to the screen.
If you don't say, yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. You on here. You on here. You caught now. You want to be famous? No. No, I'm messing with you. Ain't on here. But I had to get you though, because you wanted to be famous, so you're famous now. I'm gonna make you famous. Hey, is you? Huh? Ain't no cash. Is you subscribed to the YouTube? You subscribed to us?
What's that?
I don't act like I'm bugging. I'm making sure. I'm just messing with you. Now, thank you for watching. Without y'all watching,
All right, folks, we got 1 minute left before we begin the next part of the forum. Just as a reminder, we'll be doing Congress, State House, Flint City Council, and then Circuit Court Judge. You got it. Understood. Thank you. Will do. And just to get a few water, there's a cooler in the back. Also, we can have Miss Keela bring you some water. So raise your hand if you want some water, okay? All right, last caller, about to begin. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Get ready. And we'll start with countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much for taking your seats and bringing back to a 0. That's the teacher in me. All right, we'll get started. So, and I want to say one thing too, folks, as I begin the next part of the forum, as we simmer down and stop talking.
Oh, he didn't got slick, did he?
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. All right, so just to remind folks about some of the rules, because we like to have a order at a forum. It's not a debate, it's a forum. Kudos to the candidates who were here for U.S. House. They're gracious, professional, and they give candid responses. But just for everyone in the room, in the audience, we want to be respectful. We want to avoid names and focus on the issue, and also avoid outbursts in the public when folks are talking up here, which we have for the most part. So thank you so much. With that being said, we'll transition to the next part of the forum, which is for the State House of Representatives. So, the Democrats running are Mr. Michael Black, the incumbent Rep. Cynthia Neely, Democrat, and I do apologize if I mispronounce the name, Mr. Rob Waskowiak, a Republican. So with that being said, we'll begin with the first question. Please tell us about yourself and share your platform.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Black, and I'm incredibly ecstatic to be here today. My platform, I've got 5 basic characteristics that I'm going to be following under. The first would be, my colleague here, Dylan, is to advocate for more funding for the public school systems. The second is safer streets, because you all know we have a lot of issues going on outside. The third would be higher pay for teachers and educators in the public school districts. The fourth would be lower tax and insurance rates. And the fifth would be addressing the water crisis. Oh, I forgot, wait a minute, there's another. And modernizing Michigan's power grid, which is extremely out of date. So I want to add that in there as well.
All right, next question. What experience or qualifications make you well suited for the representing Flint residents at the state level?
Well, as my colleague on the school board passed me the microphone, I'm currently the sitting vice president of the Flint Community School Board, formerly the president. I've been training for this moment for all of my life. I've got 2 wonderful parents that have sat in the seat. Also, I've been an educator for the past, this makes 20 years for me. It's a long time. We have, this board under my leadership has done so many things as far as rehabilitating schools, parking lots, HVAC systems, heating and cooling. We've done PA systems. We've got new curriculum. So so many different things as my tenure on the school board. Also, there's a lot of things that I do in the community outside of my seat as a school board member. I sit as an advocate for Voice for Children. So I'm a CASA. I also am a teacher. I've been mentoring, coaching, all types of different things in the education field. So my experience goes a long way outside of politics. Education is my biggest field and my biggest background. So,
Thank you, sir. All right. Pretty straightforward question. What committees would you like to serve on in the legislature and why?
well, first off, I'd love to sit on the appropriations committee, so I can definitely see firsthand of how the money is allocated and where it's going to. Second would be maybe travel or recreation. I would like to see what the city of Flint could offer or be offered when it comes to vacationing and people traveling. That's a big, Michigan is a big tourist state, so we have a lot to offer here in Flint. And the third would probably have to be
recording in progress.
The third would probably have to be, it's going to be a fight, but it would probably have to be maybe criminal justice reform or something like that. So those would be my limit.
We're just going through this, okay? Next question. What are the first 3 bills you would introduce to the legislature once elected and why? Your first 3 bills. What are your top 3 priorities, essentially?
So again, my top 3 priorities would be safer streets, higher pay for teachers, and lower tax rates and insurance rates. So I think what I would like to do, because I would like to look at introducing a bill to lower the tax rates for the citizens of the state of Michigan. That would be, I don't know if that would be the first, but I definitely would look into that. A second would be definitely to fund the teachers, give teachers a higher rate of pay, which would be allocating money to the school districts from the state. And the third would definitely be probably getting more funding for law enforcement. So I would probably look into a bill to getting police officers or getting law enforcement more money, more funding, and so for more resources.
Thank you, sir. If elected, how do you plan to work with the local business, activists, and also the local elected officials, from council to mayor to school board? Currently, sir. So again, just to repeat the question, how do you plan to work with the business, activists, and local elected official community if you were elected to the legislature?
Well, local business, I would definitely have an open door to all 3, to everyone. Open lines of communication to everyone. But I would definitely look into some type of way lowering the business tax, lowering the taxes for businesses. A lot of small businesses will be affected by this tax rate that's been recently passed. Activists. Okay, well, elected officials, that's an easy one. I'm willing to work with anyone. I'm willing to work with anyone. Through civility, hard work, I'm very civil, very respectful, very down-to-earth, approachable. I'm willing to work with anyone. And activists, I'm an activist myself. That's pretty easy. I was bigger.
Thank you. And I remind you, I'm reading these questions from the script. Next question. Flint community schools have faced financial hardship and a reduction in student population, leaving blighted and vacant school buildings in our neighborhoods. Schools of choice and charter schools are a factor. How do you plan to address this issue? Kind of a long question, did you get it? All right.
So obviously I'm not a fan of school of choice. School of choice pretty much was probably one of the reasons that decimated our school district. School of choice and the charter schools. So I would like to see some type of regulations put in place. We are the Flint Schools, the community school district. I would love for this district to stay that way. We are reminiscent of 4 major high schools, Class A high schools. We're down to 1. Public high school. I would love to see Flint brought back to where it was, as far as the public schools are related, but I would like to see some type of regulation put in place so the charter schools are able to follow the same regulations that the public schools have to follow.
All right. Moving along. Next question. You know, young people are leaving Flint and the state in droves. Do you see this as a problem? If so, what would you do to make Flint and the state of Michigan a viable choice for a young person to build a life and raise a family?
Well, I would love to see what it would look like to give teachers some type of subsidy on housing. Our young people coming in, young graduates out of college coming back to Michigan to bring Michigan residents back, young families back. We got a lot of older residents here in the city of Flint and in the state of Michigan. So I would like to see some type of subsidy, some type of credit, some type of, I don't know, dollar house program or something like that. But for the people that are just graduating out of college and looking for somewhere to go, Michigan is a great place to be. We just need to find some way to get them here. And so I think I'm looking to start looking into housing or some type of tax break or something along those lines.
We have 2 questions left. Question 9. What will you do as a legislator to support economic development in the city of Flint?
So, this is, to me, economic development is like in order to look out for the residents, it would be cool for a lot of businesses to come, right? But the businesses that come are not being held responsible to looking out for the community. What I would first look into would be some type of community benefits agreement for anybody, for the district, for the city of Flint, the residents of Flint, for anybody that wanted to come here and start a major corporation or big business. We just let someone come here and get a $72 million tax break and they did nothing for the community. They made blanket promises and we got nothing from it. Nothing for it. Our kids are gonna have to pay for this $72 million and we're on the hook for it. So my biggest thing, economic development is cool, but we need whoever's gonna come or wants to come to do something for the residents, mainly our children and our seniors. So I would look into something, forming some type of partnership and making people, holding their feet to the fire, making them look out for the residents of Flint.
Yes.
So that kind of does answer your question, but it doesn't answer the question. I'm more looking for, to help the residents of Flint. But how would I look at economic development? I'd be looking to partner with anyone who's willing to be fair and come to the city of Flint and bring their business here. And as long as they hire our people, I'm game.
Thank you. We have one more question left, and then we'll be closing. Final question. You know, there'll be times when your personal beliefs conflict with the will of the majority of your constituents. As a state legislator, is your primary obligation to your personal position, or is it towards the will of the majority of your constituents? Please explain why.
Now, when I say what I'm about to say, it's going to sound funny, but I'm here asking for your support to represent you in Lansing. That's the title would be state representative, but that's not that's not why I'm here. The focus of my running here is for the constituents, the residents of the city of Flint in the 70th district. So it's not so much the title that matters to me. This is just a platform that I'd be able to help more people from. So my main focus would be the residents in the city of Flint or the 70th district while holding this title, but it's not about the title. Does that make sense? Am I making sense to you all? So my main focus would be you. I'm not concerned about a position. It's not a big deal to me to lose a position or to not be elected to a position. I'm still going to get down and do the work. That's what I do. This is not my first time in the campaign. I've run before. I've lost before. I didn't give up. I stopped. I put my head down and I kept working. I worked hard. That's why I'm back here. So I'm going to continue on my clothing. So I got some notes I want to talk about. Let's say. So in closing, I'm running to be your fighter in Lansing, so the people of the 70th District will have a good, transparent, and truthful representative. As a representative, I'll be a champion for our schools, clean water, fair water bills, senior citizens, children, teachers, lower tax and insurance rates, and many other pressuring issues that we face here in the city of Flint. The residents of Flint were poisoned by policy, and we are not satisfied, with our current representation. I am here to remedy these issues. It is obvious today by all of you who are present here watching online who the serious candidate is. It is clear who wants you, the residents, to know what a Michael Black office would look like. I love the city of Flint and the residents. Therefore, I can say with all confidence that I am the best choice to represent this great city, and Lansing. Vote Michael Black on August 6, 2024, and let's bring real representation to the
damn good well I'm the best candidate.
All right, well, another applause for Mr. Black for being the only candidate to come today to the forum. With that, we'll do a 5-minute break. Just as a reminder, if you want to raise your hand. To my right for the rest. See y'all soon. Next up, Flint City Council, 5 minutes.
Me? What?
Why y'all can't sit down and work things out together?
Oh, so what we gonna work out? They gonna bag me?
Sit down.
That's what we gonna work out?
You gonna sit down with
So we gonna sit down at the table and they gonna work things out with me.
Sit down with the third ward candidates and see.
And I will ask them to bag me. And if they say yeah, I will open my arms up. And if they say no, I'm gonna say may the best person win.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
sit down
it.
with the third ward candidates. That's
I don't
simple.
know.
That's simple.
I need their support.
That's simple. Right. That's simple. Now, if more people had an open mind like you, we wouldn't have
They don't got no open mind like me.
But what I'm saying is that simple. You said you're willing to sit down with the third ward candidates and see who they want to vote for. Like who they gonna
I'm not sitting down for that. I'm sitting down to tell them to get behind me. And they sitting down telling me to get behind them.
Let me get back on my neck.
Real talk. What do you think they gonna say at the table?
They might say, you know what? We may want Rich Jones or we may want Beverly Biggs, and then you say, you know what? I'll bow out gracefully.
Hey, what about AC Dumas?
He don't count. He done ran like all his life. He can't run no more.
Well, both of the counts is in between them. And I'm gonna be honest with you. If I win that seat, I probably will go back to AC Dumas to ask about some laws and different stuff like that.
I mean, because he was here when they wrote them.
What would I have to go back and ask her?
You did good. You did good, Craig. Wasn't nobody agree with you. You better had knocked that out there. But if you would have fucked that up, you was the only one on stage. I would have came up here and got
Yeah, fucking Mike is live, people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had two answers for
That Mike is live,
I'm
fam.
sorry.
I'm going to go back and forth with my papers. Man, what I'm going to answer?
Hey, real talk though. Real talk though. If I win the office, what would I have to go back to Miss Beverly and ask for her advice? Name one thing.
I like Miss Beverly.
I understand you like Miss Beverly. That's a good reason to like somebody because they family and cook cakes. That's beautiful. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Shit.
And listen, don't nobody win no election 1,000 votes to 0. Somebody got to do whatever they're doing. But what I'm saying is, I'm the best for that seat. And ain't no way in the world the best one.
This is my logic. Listen to what I'm now.
So you think Miss Beverly is better than me? Then you do. That's your opinion.
Okay, you listen to my logic. Listen to my logic. So my logic is that have a meeting with the third ward.
With
the third ward.
I already did that.
I'm talking about you and her, because we still got little Leon out there, right?
Listen.
Y'all don't need to be splitting up the votes.
Is you talking to them about that? Because I feel they're splitting. Anybody running against me, I feel they're splitting the vote. That's how I feel. And they feel the same way.
But you can't feel like that.
Why can they feel that way and I can't?
Because you said this morning that if somebody else wins, that you would sit down and you would work.
And I will. But just because it's somebody else winning, I work with them don't mean that I'll jump out of a race for them when I know I'm the best candidate.
Do you ask them to jump out the race if they respect the Eric Mays? They should all jump out the race. Then yet wasn't that
If they like you want me to drop out of the race?
I didn't ask you to drop out the race.
So what is your goal for me to sit down at the table with somebody that you want instead of me?
I asked you.
What's the
I didn't say sit down.
You done already been on live talking about who you was for.
I said
You done blew it.
I said who I like. I said you should sit down with the third ward candidates and see who they will get behind, because ultimately those are the people that's gonna vote for y'all. If they're not gonna get behind you, don't waste your damn time.
Once again,
Period.
you don't even know what I'm doing. You don't even know the people that I'm talking to.
Well, sit down, get out. You done.
I'm not.
You're fired.
Like I said, I would be doing my people a disgrace if I dropped out of this race. And I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
All right, about this. Now, we're going to talk after this.
All right, folks, we got about 30 seconds left before we begin.
told you, it's still my son.
We ain't gonna fall out because of this. We ain't gonna fall out.
Just to be honest, number one, thank you so much for being so respectful, professional, and graceful in the audience. So for you all, clap up real quick for y'all to be so
It's
great.
about to be the best one.
And yeah, okay. All right, cool. Well, with that being said, we'll begin the next portion of our forum. It will be focused on the Flint City Council. We have two candidates. The seat is nonpartisan. We have Ms. Jan Marie Arbor and we have the incumbent, Ms. Candace Mashad. And with that, like the two previous segments, please tell us about yourself and share your platform. And just swing it around like that.
Good evening. My name is Candace Mashad. I am a lifelong Flint resident. I've spent my entire adult life serving the residents of Flint. I started off volunteering at a young age, so to do work in the community. From there, I ended up going to the Michigan House of Representatives and serving as a Constituent Services Director for the city of Flint. And I did that at the height of the Flint water crisis. And so the only thing I've ever known as far as working in the political field has been that Flint has been in crisis, and we've always been in go mode trying to find solutions to help the people and reconnect the people to services and safe clean water that they deserve. After working at the U.S. House of Representatives, I was the Public Information Officer for the city of Flint, another position that I gladly took on so that I can make sure that residents have access to information and are able to make informed decisions for themselves. And once our former council person resigned, I decided that somebody needed to be in her place. Somebody needed to show the same level of professionalism and commitment that she showed to our city. And so I did step up and I was appointed. I've managed to make a lot of progress in our ward over the past year. We've seen some major infrastructure things happen that the ward has not seen happen in 30 years or so. I've managed to make sure that every dollar of ARPA that the ward, the 7th ward has applied for, the 7th ward was able to receive that funding. And so I am here today just re-upping on my commitment to not only the 7th ward, but the residents of Flint and me being a responsible person in the city of Flint. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all, and thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the Evergreen Block Watchers for hosting this candidates forum. It's so important that voters have an opportunity to get to know the people who want to represent them, and I'm happy to be one of those people. To let you know, I moved back to Flint about 30 years ago after having lived in Chicago, where I worked at the University of Chicago in the Department of Economics supporting professors. I then went into corporate America, working to support high-level executives in their needs. After returning to Chicago, or to Flint, I decided to do something different, have some fun just because I was able to, and spend more time doing what I had done during my youth, which was movement. So I began as an exercise instructor here, a yoga teacher, all that wonderful kinds of stuff. In addition to doing those sorts of things, I've also been involved with the community. When there have been needs within our community, I have stepped up to try to meet those needs. I've been involved with neighborhood organizations when persons, for instance, on my block or my community have needed assistance with resolving an issue. They've called me and I've been more than happy to help them. I've organized events such as this one to inform residents about candidates. The last one included Ms. Machette for the interim council person. And I've also been a reliable fixture at the Brennan Senior Center for over 10 years where I taught chair yoga classes there. So I'm very committed to my community and serving the people within my community as well as within the 7th Ward. I would like to continue to serve you with dignity and with respect, which our city council desperately needs. Thank you.
All right, next question. What do you see as the top 3 issues facing the 7th Ward? How would you address those issues if elected for a full term in City Council?
Thank you. The top 3 issues that are affecting the 7th Ward, most obviously is going to be blight. As you look across the city, and I know sometimes when people look at the 7th Ward, they think it's not as bad, but blight is definitely an issue in the 7th Ward. As you have more people that are coming into the city of Flint and moving around the city of Flint, we find that we have an influx of renters who are not necessarily treating the properties the same way that an owner would treat the properties. And so because I've noticed that blight is an issue, I have pulled the blight ordinance and I've been working on putting some more teeth in there to help the residents of the 7th Ward be able to live in the ward that they've been used to living in, to seeing the beautiful ward that they've been used to seeing as they've grown up and raised families here. The second thing is definitely going to be economic development, right? That's an issue throughout the city, but it's definitely an issue in our ward. As we have younger people moving into our ward, they need more quality jobs. And we have to be better at attracting people to come into the city so that the younger residents have an opportunity to work in various fields. One of the things that was brought up earlier in another one of the forums was the fact that we need a community benefits agreement. I'm actually already working on a community benefits agreement, and it's something that we're going to introduce here shortly. And then the third and final thing that I think is going to be important to the 7th Ward is it's kind of a mixture of a couple of different things, right? And that all just kind of boils down to public safety. We definitely need to bring people back to feeling safe in their neighborhoods, feeling safe to go for walks. We need to curtail what's happening with the dogs. We need to make sure that the gun violence is not on rampant here. Thank you.
Thank you. In talking with the residents within the 7th Ward, the 3 top concerns that have been mentioned to me include blight, infrastructure, and public safety, all of which are extremely important in addition to helping to stabilize the Flint public school system with economic development. People will be inclined to move to Flint once we clean it up better than it is. We have cars parked backwards. We have cars without license plates. We have graffiti all over the place. We've got people hammering things onto posts on every corner. We've got garbage every place, grass that hasn't been cut. We have a number of issues regarding blight that need to be resolved. We have infrastructure issues such as an ongoing water problem, which the state is now having to come in and fix for us. Shame on Flint for not getting that done. We also have a major sewer issue to work with. That's extremely important, and that's something that we need to get done. Additionally, with our public safety, most of us, are accustomed to having police response time nearly immediate. Now our police, maybe they show up, maybe they don't. Maybe you get a police report, maybe you don't. We need to do something and working with our police so that one, they're working with our neighborhoods the way it once was, so that they get to know the people get to know them, and we develop trust. Once those things are in place, then we can have a firm foundation for economic development within Flint. Thank you.
Thank you. And just one thing I want to reiterate, I want to give the candidates from the U.S. House, the State House, and the Flint City Council, you guys have been so gracious, professional in your responses, you have the issues, so we definitely got in that regard. Next question, kind of like a job interview, which just kind of is, will you please share the most impactful mistake you've made as a leader, the lesson learned, and how you apply it towards as a 7th Ward City Council person? So your biggest mistake, what you learned, how you can apply it towards your elected.
That's a very interesting question. I've never really considered myself a quote-unquote leader in terms of being a public leader. I have been a leader before classes of people and the various things that I teach, but I've never considered myself a public leader until this point. I would say that the biggest mistake I've made is that I did not put my toe in the water much sooner. I wish I had, because I believe that I could have achieved great things on behalf of our ward and our city. My passion for this city is quite strong, which is why I show up at city council meetings, which is why I comment during public statements, because I am concerned about that. So, if anything, I should spank myself for not taking the risk and jumping out here prior to now to run for city council. But thankfully, it's not too late. It's time for change. We need someone who is respectful of all people across the 7th Ward, not just in a certain segment of the 7th Ward, but throughout the 7th Ward, which is why I fought so strong to keep our ward together when it was under attack. And a certain portion of our cultural area worked hard to separate us, push us into the 4th Ward, which would have reduced our property taxes. But because you joined in and you stood with me, we're still where we are. Our property tax values are going up, which is another area that we need to look at. Stabilizing property taxes, which we'll talk about perhaps at another time. Thank you.
So I believe your question was, what was a mistake that I feel that I've made as a leader? So one of the things, though, that I've always been clear on from a very young age, that we're always taught, is that any time you show up in your community and you have a voice, you are always a leader. And so one of the things that I take pride in is knowing that I've learned from a very young age that I've always been a leader. I think one of the biggest mistakes that not only myself, a lot of people make, is that we don't bridge the gap and bring other leaders to the forefront, or those who might be nervous to jump out and do this thing, because it's not easy to sit up, especially in the time that we live in now, with all of the critiques that you'll get, and some of the mean things that people will say, and some of just the vicious things that people will say. So I think the biggest thing we look at now is how we can encourage the next generation to do this. Even when we talk about in our ward, when you think, some people think, oh, it's too late for them, or the time has run out. I don't think so. I think what happens is we all get inspiration from one another to join this fight and do what we're doing. When we start talking about some of the choices that I've made as a council person, when we look at the infrastructure improvements that I've made in the ward, we've had people in our ward say the things that I've been doing, they have not seen happen in 30 years. So we have speed humps in places where people once felt ignored. We have trees being trimmed. We have sidewalks being taken care of. And it's not that these things weren't already happening. It's just that in certain parts of our ward, they weren't happening in those parts of our ward. When we talk about how people feel about coming to council meetings, I think one of the things that we do have to touch on is the fact that there has to be an air of civility both from audience and council people. And so making sure that everyone feels comfortable to show up and lead in the community. Because the reality is, this is not my seat, it won't be the next person's seat, this is the 7th Ward seat. And so whomever's in the seat has to be ready to support the initiatives and move forward as the ward is already doing.
Thank you. All right, let's just keep chugging along with you next. Ms. Mashad.
She talking, sir.
The good news is, folks, we're good on time, so we have 12 questions for our candidates, so we're going to go into every last question. Yes, so next question, different neighborhoods make the 7th ward, and historically,
answer the question.
This ward has been historically provided more consideration than other areas. How will you prioritize equal representation for all neighborhoods in the 7th ward? Was that question clear? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think that is an excellent question about how do you prioritize it. I feel as though I've already prioritized it. When we take a look at, and let me be clear that coming into this, every neighborhood in the ward has made it clear about where they have felt that they were once in the past left out, where they feel like they could use a little bit more assistance. And so how I prioritize it is I make sure that no matter who calls me, there's a 48-hour response time. I make sure that I do go to the neighborhoods and go to the homes, and I look at the streets and the sidewalks that they call about. I make sure that I prioritize just walking through the neighborhoods with the neighbors. I made sure that when we were told that we had $30,000 to spend however we wanted to in our ward, that it wasn't a unilateral decision, or I didn't just put it toward a street, or I didn't just put it toward one neighborhood group. I told everybody the first thing we're going to do is start off with an equitable stance with this $30,000. So the first 10, every single neighborhood association, I made sure that they all got $2,000 because I wanted to make it clear that this is all of our money and we will all get a piece of this money. And then after that, with the remaining 20, I asked everyone to submit proposals for what they would like to have happen with that remaining 20. And me doing that was my way of making sure that every part of the ward knew nobody's going to be left out as long as you allow me to sit in this seat and represent you. When we talk about the speed humps, every council person only gets a certain amount. So I made sure that I went around the entire ward and that the speed humps are spread out. I made sure that if on one side they started with the speed humps, I wanted the other side to see that they're getting progress as well. So we started with the tree trimming and the sidewalk removal. The point is that you make sure that, and I do drive-bys in the ward all the time. I drive through the entire 7th ward. I stop and I speak to neighbors, and I make sure that no matter what, they know if you have a concern, you can call me, you will get a response. If there's any money coming into this ward, we will all see a piece of it, and that you will not be ignored on any of your concerns.
Audience, you've been great so far. We have folks on Zoom, so please hold your applause and your discussion to the end of the segment of the forum. Please, thank you so much.
Thank you, and yes, that is a very good question, and it's a telling question, because this 7th ward, particularly this section of the 7th ward, the Evergreen Valley, Evergreen Estates, Lapeer Park, Elm Park areas, have not received, in my opinion, equitable distribution of dollars, particularly ARPA dollars available. For instance, nearly or almost $750,000 has been invested in the College Cultural Neighborhood area, including the 700 and 800 East Court Street buildings, the McFarland home. Now keep in mind, those businesses are owned by Presbyterian Villages, a not-for-profit organization that owns many similar businesses throughout the state of Michigan. That's important to keep in mind. Pierce Park, which is in the College Cultural Neighborhood area, was given $50,000 of our ARPA dollar monies. $25,000 was allocated for a crossing, safe crossing for blind persons. Now, I think all of those are wonderful. I love seeing the 7th ward being invested in. What I'm not happy about is that our areas were forgotten about. Whether or not any organization on this side of the 7th ward applied, I think it was incumbent upon the representative had it been Allie Herkenroder or Ms. Mashat, to contact neighbors or organizations to remind them that, hey, there's money available. There has been money available far beyond what the original cutoff dates were. We need to try to get as much as we can, but sadly, what's available now is a mere pittance. But that doesn't mean that we don't stop. It doesn't mean that we don't try. I will work my behind off to try to do better for this area as well as the rest of the 7th Ward.
Let's try to be crystal clear in case you didn't understand me the first time. We're going to hold our applause to the end of the part of this. Excuse me. We're going to hold on. We're going to be respectful of all the folks here on Zoom. Those in president, those up here. Okay. With that being said, back to you, Ms. Arbor. What is your long-term vision for the 7th Ward, and what are the key steps you will take to achieve this vision?
Jan go first.
Again, this particular community needs investment. First of all, we need neighborhood associations. The one in my neighborhood, Evergreen Estates, fell to the wayside. Janetta's doing a very good job along with Keela with Evergreen Block Watchers. However, I think another neighborhood association to add on to what they're doing would help this community. Lapeer Park and Elm Park need their own neighborhood associations. We need to get the training that is required to be more direct in our efforts so that we can beautify our neighborhoods. We need to reinstill pride of ownership. We do have all these renters, as Ms. Mashat indicated, and sadly, your home may be immaculately detailed with your grass, etc., but the home across the street or next to you may not. We have to figure out ways how we can be more inclusive of renters as well as homeowners to do a better job to brighten and beautify our neighborhoods. I would like to see economic development. I would also like to see home restoration. In our communities, we have homes that are falling apart. The trend now is modular homes. You might remember last year there was an effort put forth by Metro Housing Development to build a modular complex on Lapeer, which I was strongly against because those buildings do not have longevity as stick builds do. We need to be very mindful about what we allow into our communities, but we need to clean up our communities, there's no doubt about it, so that we can begin to invite business investment into our communities. So neighborhood associations and activity within those associations first. Thank you.
Look how she looking at him.
Please, what is your long-term vision for the 7th Ward, and what are the key steps to achieve this vision?
My long-term vision for the ward is, as it's always been, and that is to support the efforts that the ward currently has going. One of the things that happens is people get in these seats, and they forget that these seats belong to the people, and they start making unilateral decisions. They start making choices as though...
We're going to pause for 2 minutes. I was crystal clear. This audience has to be respectful of the folks on the platform, whether it's Ms. Arbor or Ms. Mashat. Period. Thank you. We'll take a 2-minute break.
And we have to be not disrespectful. We need to be respectful. We put this candidates forum on for the citizens in our community. Janetta and I took a lot of time to do this. We do not want people heckle. We have asked and asked. Please follow the rules. If not, please excuse yourself. Thank you.
we're back. We are back. All right. So we'll go to the next question. You want to finish? I'm not sure the time is, Kilo. How much time do we have? All right. Keith.
We want to be fair, let everyone have a chance.
Okay. I finished your last response.
So as I was saying, what's important is it's going to be important to take the cue from the community as I've done this past year. We all live in the 7th Ward and we're neighbors in that fact, but the reality is that what I see when I walk out of my door is not necessarily what you see when you walk out of your door. So what's going to be important is that whomever sits in the seat is taking their cue from you and what you need to see and what's comfortable for you as you walk out of your door. So if the blight is going to be a concern or an issue, we take care of the blight. If the issue is going to be dogs or the issue is going to be a lack of activity, whatever it is, the cue has to come from the people because, again, this is the people's seat. And so as we walk out of our doors in our different neighborhoods, while we are all neighbors, we don't necessarily see the same things. But I do believe that we have common interests that can unite the ward. We can share a vision, and the 7th Ward can be beautiful all across. And what's beautiful for me might be a different definition of beauty for you. So it's just important that I listen to you, take my cues from you, and make the changes and adjustments as you see fit, as I've been doing this past year.
You, Ms. Arbor, you're next. Ms. Arbor, sorry. Ms. Arbor. All right, please explain how you have supported 7th Ward residents using specific examples.
Thank you. And just to be clear, I'm sure Ms. Mashat meant to say 10 months. She's been in office, not 1 year. Specifically, what I've done for the 7th Ward had to do with, 1, organizing candidate forums in 2021, 2023. No one had organized anything. I found it important to do so, so I stepped up to the plate and made it happen. Many of you attended those forums at the Brennan Senior Center, and they were quite professional, quite wonderful, and we now have an interim council person who it's time to replace. I've also, when threatened by the owner of the old Howard Johnson's on Center Road, a request for rezoning to build a marijuana growth center had come in my mail. I checked with my next door neighbor, she hadn't received it. I checked with our then council person, Monica Galloway, she hadn't received the letter. So I encouraged Monica to join with me in reaching out to our neighbors. I had letters prepared, asked them to sign them, had a meeting with planning and zoning, and also went to council, requesting their support with preventing that from happening, which happened twice. So on 2 occasions, I succeeded in preventing a marijuana growth center from being built on Center Road. The most important effort I believe I've spearheaded had to do with keeping the 7th Ward intact. When the College Cultural Neighborhood Association president attempted to cut Evergreen Estates, the Valley, Lapeer Park, and Elm Park out, we gathered forces. We went before council. Council understood, and we're here today within the 7th Ward. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you. So being in this seat for a year, what I have accomplished this past year is, 1, I've been highly responsive. One of the things that I've heard is that a lot of times people go so they couldn't pick up a phone and get a person. When you call me, if I do not answer, I return your calls. Another thing is I've shown up. So if I've been told, hey, there's a pothole over here, or hey, someone's parked strange, or hey, can you come look at this? Again, I've shown up, and I've made sure that the correct enforcement has shown up for residents as well. When we talk about the money that's spread throughout this community, I do want to make sure that you get good information on that. What happened was, before I was ever even in office, people applied for grants. And the lack of information, I make no excuse about. I have no idea why the city at the time didn't do their due diligence in making sure that everyone knew that these dollars were available. However, every dollar that the ward did apply for, I made sure it came to the ward. And when I saw that the ward did not necessarily get access to those dollars in the same way, when that $30,000 came before me, I made the conscious decision to come to every single neighborhood association and say, what do you need, what would you like to see? And not only that, but here, let's all start off with the same amount of money to make sure that you do get something, and that I would not move forward until I had something from every neighborhood association about what the needs were in that particular part of the ward. When we talk about not only showing up just verbally, but then when people said that things needed to be paid, but things needed to be done, I started out with a whole infrastructure project in which I reached out to the entire ward and asked, where are the potholes that need to be patched? Where are the sidewalks that need to be fixed? Where are the streets that need to be closed? Where do we need more signs? When we talk about information not getting to the ward as it should, I do a community update that I make sure that I send out so that you know every single solitary thing that's happening, not only in this ward, but in the city of Flint. So what I've done is I've kept you informed and I've made sure that you have access.
All right, Ms. Mashat and then Ms. Harvard. Given the contentious climate on the Flint City Council, will you please provide examples of how you have worked with city council members holding different perspectives? If you haven't, how do you plan to work with city council members with different perspectives? Is that clear? I have a long question for you.
She put folks out.
Thank you. Clearly, I haven't been a city council member. I have, however, attended city council meetings. The primary reason I'm running for this office is because civility needs to be restored within those chambers. The ethics are substandard. There's a lack of civility. Sadly, I've witnessed it with the interim opponent here by calling colleagues foul names other than their first name or by their professional position, referring to them as hood rats, or telling a council person she's not intelligent, that it takes other brains to think for her, or telling a grown man that he's a child and his mom didn't raise him well. That's unprofessional. I've even been called a liar. My age has been thrown up in my face. These things are unacceptable. When you're in the public eye, we should endeavor to treat all persons with respect and dignity. It is my pledge to you, as your council representative, I will represent just that: civility, honesty, integrity, decency, and everything I do. I will not sugarcoat, I will be honest, but I will not offend deliberately. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we've all seen council meetings. We know that they do not necessarily happen ideally. I know we also know that audience members show up and that they are oftentimes a part of some of the lack of civility. My counterpart here has been one of those audience members who on multiple occasions has been a part of the lack of civility. I think if we're talking about we're going to represent honesty, we have to be honest and we have to make sure that we're speaking in the correct context. The only thing that I can do is what I've done from the beginning, and that is continue to try and get along with my colleagues. It is not necessarily an easy environment. You have a lot of passionate people who sit in those seats and have opinions. You have a lot of, I came into an environment that was quite contentious, and they throw you on sides, whether that's the reality of what's happening or not. I think what has to continue happening, though, is that the person that sits in the seat has to continue moving with integrity, continue moving with honesty, continue giving you correct information within context. And I think that's going to be very important. I think anybody that sits in the seat cannot come in already angry at one side and deciding that they are going to manipulate and use words to make it seem as though they are not a part of disruption when they are. And so the only thing that I want to continue to do, because there have been times where there are colleagues that I do not get along with and do not necessarily get along with me, where I've leaned over to them and said, hey, where are you at on this? And we've been able to come to a conclusion of yes or no when we talk about voting. And so at the end of the day, it's can you still, regardless of how you or that person feel about each other, can you still lean over and say, what are your thoughts on this and why? Can you still continue to move a meeting forward and move the community forward? And because I sent out those updates, I think the answer to that has been yes. We've managed to get a lot of work done on council, even with a council who doesn't necessarily get along. Thank you.
All right, two quick notes, folks. One, we have 2 questions left for our candidates, and honoring my both candidates, and I refer to your opponent in your answers. Thank you. Who went last? I forget. Okay. Ms. Arbor, next question. How will you effectively advocate for the 7th Ward's needs at the city level and ensure that its concerns are prioritized in broader city discussions and priorities?
I will advocate for the community by meeting with the managers of departments, by meeting with the mayor when necessary, by conferring with my colleagues properly according to the rules in the charter of the city of Flint, what's expected by the Michigan Municipal League. I will do things properly and in order to resolve or help to resolve the issues that we face. Is there another part to that question that I may have missed?
Yeah, I'll repeat it.
Please.
How will you effectively advocate for the 7th Ward's needs at the city level and ensure that those concerns are prioritized in broader city discussions?
Okay, so with meeting with the heads of departments, for instance, of course I will be representing the 7th Ward, and I would be informed with what information is necessary to impart, to try to encourage them to support the requests of the citizens through me. Of course, I would put forth resolutions as necessary to help to bring further progress to our 7th Ward as well as to our city. And is there anything else?
I will advocate for the 7th Ward like I do every day as I've done for the past year. And that means anytime there is a call or concern that comes in from the 7th Ward, whether it's about blight, whether it's about a dog, whether it's about a loud neighbor, whatever it is, I make sure that those concerns are handled, and I make sure they're handled in a timely manner. I will continue to advocate for the 7th Ward as I've done. When we start to talk about the different issues we've had with people starting to speed through our ward and everything lately, you see we have more speed humps happening as a result of that. I will continue to advocate for the 7th Ward. When we talked about the garbage contract, and the 7th Ward residents said they absolutely did not want to have their tax assessment any higher on that. I made sure that that did not happen, that the residents' taxes will not be assessed any higher than they already are. When we talk about streetlights, and how residents were upset with the fact that there are a lot of streetlights that are out, and then they thought that assessment was too high. I worked together with my colleagues, even though it's not always easy. We worked together and we made sure that we actually lowered the street lighting assessment. So I was a part of a team that lowered your taxes. That's what we recently did. And so when we talk about advocating, I will always look for avenues to make sure that things cost you less money. That we look for avenues to where when you walk outside of your home, you feel safe. Not only that, but it's beautiful what you see. So the things that I've been doing for the past year, and I keep reiterating and saying the same thing because I want you to know I've been working, I'm going to continue to work. There's more work to be done, and it will get done if you allow me to sit in this seat. Thank you.
Last question in closing. Last question, speaking for Ms. Arbor. What is your plan for responding to constituent inquiries and concerns in a timely and effective manner?
Thank you. Upon receipt of your calls, your texts, your emails, I will endeavor to respond within a timely manner. I would hope that 48 hours would be a sufficient period of time for you to receive a response from me. Just as the interim council person is doing a wonderful job with informing the residents who receive emails through the Evergreen Block Watchers about what is going on within council, I will continue to do. In addition, we will have regular meetings, town hall meetings, so that I'm not only informing you via email, but I'm also hearing from you. I need to know the pulse of our community. I need to talk with the people. I need to see your faces. I need to hear your grievances. I need to hear your suggestions. I need to know that you're willing to work with me as I'm willing to work with you to help to resolve some of the issues within the 7th Ward. There's one area that I would like to cover, and that is of priority waste. $2 million from the ARPA dollars has just been allocated to cover the cost 2024 and 2025, where we had a shortfall. Otherwise, you would have incurred a $53 increase on that. Now, you may recall last fall that we were told that there would not be an increase. As a matter of fact, the overwhelming majority of persons from this community stated by vote that they did not want to extend the priority waste contract for 5 years. So know this, after 2 years, fees will be going up because the interim person voted to extend that contract. Thank you.
I'll just restate the question. Ms. Mashat, what is your plan for responding to constituent inquiries and concerns in a timely and effective manner?
My plan is to continue doing what I've been doing because it's working. I hear from people, and within 48 hours they get a response. I show up in neighborhoods, I show up in homes, I show up to see exactly what the problem is, so that when it needs to be described, I'm able to say this is what it looks like. I show up and I take pictures myself. I attend every neighborhood association meetings, even when I cannot. If they have them via Zoom, I attend via Zoom. I have shown up from day one. I will continue to show up. It's really that simple. My plan is to continue doing what I've been doing. Even when we talk about the garbage contract, the good thing about me being on the inside is that I can correct some misinformation I was just giving to you. And that is that you were told as though that was absolutely going to happen, that your garbage assessment is going to go up. That is incorrect. The same way that I did not allow it to happen now, I will not allow it to happen then. The reality is that we can't make speculations, and you need someone who is showing up with solutions. Someone who, if there is a problem, they are able to, they have the knowledge, the experience, and the know-how to correct those situations. Someone who is not afraid to get out there and clean up with you, not afraid to come and check out a dog situation with you. Someone who has the longevity in them to continue doing the work that they are doing and is committed to doing the work that they're doing. Someone who started doing this step up to be a leader in their community, but stepped up and chose me, who wakes up every single day and actively chooses the city of Flint and chooses the residents. You can continue to count on me because every day I wake up, I actively choose you by answering my phone, by answering my text, by answering my emails, by showing up on holidays, by making sure that there are community programs that you want to see. I help spearhead them myself. So the same service that you've been getting from me is the service that you will continue to get from me. I have shown up for you all this time. I will continue to show up for you. I am a Flint resident. I don't take that lightly.
Thank you. So we'll begin closings next with Ms. Arbor, and then just because of our time crunch, it's getting close to our allotted time, we'll jump right into the candidates for 7th Circuit Court. They have different roles when it comes to forums, so they'll just introduce who they are, share their their vision for the role, and then we'll conclude. With that, Ms. Arbor, you can close.
She's been first the whole time.
Again, I've lived on Somerset Lane for nearly 30 years, and during those years, we together have experienced crisis after crisis, a hard-hitting housing and financial crisis, 2007 and 2008, as well as a devastating state takeover. That was our receivership, a disastrous water switch, and a pandemic that nearly shut down the world. Ever since GM gave us a sucker punch to the gut, we've been trying to recover. Flint's been knocked down, but we keep getting up. And that's what we have, is strength together. By working together, we'll continue to get up. Like myself, I'm sure many of you drive across the city, and you see the devastation in our communities. The neighborhoods face similar issues, just to different degrees. We have issues of, as we've stated, never-ending blight, infrastructure problems still with the water, and public safety issues that need to be addressed. Those and other issues will continue, but we must and I will work to help to resolve those issues. As a proud Flint native and resident, and now a candidate for the 7th Ward, it's my desire to serve as I have with previous endeavors to help to stabilize the 7th Ward in our neighborhoods. I will serve with care, with vigor, with fortitude, integrity, and leadership. In contrast to what the opponent has claimed, that I have contributed to chaos at Chambers, that is patently false. On one occasion, I spoke beyond the 3-minute limit. I knew I was doing it, and the following week I went back to Chambers and I apologized to the council and to the community, the people of the city of Flint. The opponent has never apologized for any of her infractions against council rules. Thank you. I ask that you vote for me, I ask that you ballot, and on August 6th, I will serve you with pride. Thank you.
Thank you once again. She showcased her inability to stop when someone asked her to stop. They had to do the please stop 3 times. And so the only thing that I can tell you is that I have no problem with understanding and respecting spaces when given the opportunity. As I've said several times this evening, this past year, I've shown up, I've told you, I've never taken a break from the city of Flint. I've lived in the city of Flint my entire life. I have had opportunities to go other places and do other things, but I decided that the talent needs to remain in Flint. That I need to give back to the city that has made me who I am and what I am. And in this last year, I've shown up whenever I've been called. I've made sure that every decision that I've made with the residents in mind and with talking to the residents. When I had one side of the ward tell me about one infrastructure issue that they were having, I made sure that I asked the entire ward about all of the infrastructure issues that they were having so that we could address all of our infrastructure issues at one time. I came up with a plan, I came up with deadlines. The same thing with the $30,000 for ARPA. I made sure I came up with a plan, I came up with a deadline, I made sure the entire ward has had an input. I had a pattern and a track record of stopping and considering everyone in the ward, not moving or making decisions for just one side of the ward. There are speed humps going up all over the entire ward, not just one part of the ward. The decisions and ordinances that I introduce, they affect the entire ward, not just one part of the ward. I've stayed here because the people of Flint matter to me, not just one part or one side. I understand that there's a long storied history of us not being united, but my whole point in doing this is to make sure that we are united, that we are strong, and that the 7th Ward is one voice that can help move this city forward in a positive way. And so when you vote for me on August 6th, I just thank you ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Harper, Ms. Mashad. Ladies and gentlemen, the candidates for City Council for 7th Ward. And as I mentioned earlier, because of our time crunch, I would invite the candidates for the Circuit Court 7th District up next.
Good job, Dave. Good job.
And at the end, I'll give Ms. Riggs and Ms. Geiser the mic to kind of conclude. They've done a great job via their neighborhood organization, the Evergreen Block Podcast. And just to remind you too, because of rules when it comes to the judge races, they're just going to give an intro and they'll conclude. Again, our candidates are Mrs. Mary Hood and Mrs. Nancy Shinonis. And just give an intro, tell us why you're running, and get comfortable. Start.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Evergreen Black Watchers for inviting us. I think this is a very important part of our community service to provide some information. My name is Nancy Shinonis. I'm running for Jefferson County Circuit Court Judge. Judge Bell is retiring, leaving the vacancy. So a little bit about myself. I'm a lifelong resident of Jefferson County. And I am now running for Judge Bell's seat. A little bit about my background. I'm a graduate of Detroit College of Law. While I was in law school, I interned with the Prosecutor's Office Family Division, prosecuting abuse and neglect cases. I also interned with Judge Farah. Following graduation from law school, I worked for Judge Fullerton for 2 years as her law clerk, where I learned how the circuit court system really works and the intricacies of what the bench hears. After clerking for Judge Fullerton for 2 years, I started my practice working for the law offices of Dean Yotis, where I represented people who had been wrongfully terminated from their jobs. I practiced civil rights and employment wrongful termination litigation. I'm currently a partner at Klein Griffin, where I practice civil defense. Okay, so I represent people now, some people who have been terminated from their jobs, but a lot of business and other employment-related defense matters. This, I think, is important because as a candidate, I have represented both the plaintiffs and the defendants in lawsuits, and I now have 17 years experience in litigation, in circuit court, in Genesee County. My entire career has been litigating in the circuit court system, and I think I'm the only candidate that has that kind of litigation experience, representing the people, using the rules of evidence, and making decisions for clients that will affect how their litigation proceeds. I thank you for your time today, and I want you to know that as a judge on the Genesee County Circuit Court bench, I will follow some of the things that I've learned from Judge Fullerton. Number one, to be there for the residents and the citizens of Genesee County on time, to start the docket in the morning at 8 o'clock, and to serve the community until the close of business at 5 o'clock. I will follow the rule of law. That means I will implement the rules of law that the legislature has approved, and I will apply the law to the facts before me after letting everyone have an opportunity to be heard in the courtroom, which I think is very important. As a judicial candidate, there's not a lot we can say about how we will rule, but I will tell you that following the rule of law is important, and I will do that. So thank you for your time today. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer individual questions afterwards, but thank you for including me today.
Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Mr. Linda. Good evening, everyone. Most of you know, many of you, I see a lot of friends in the audience. You know that I didn't just start my journey a few months ago. I started this journey several years ago when I saw the seat of the retired Honorable Duncan Beagle. I have been serving in the family division of the court for 21 years. So most of you know that I ran back in 2022 and received nearly 49% of the vote in Genesee County, which was historic. For those of you who don't know me, I would like for you to know that I was born and raised in Flint, as was my father. He was an hourly General Motors employee. He was a landlord, and he also operated his own income tax business. My mother was a teacher. I'm the fourth of 6 children. My candidacy has been endorsed by our Sheriff Swanson, Prosecutor Layton, the UAW, Region 1D and CAP, ASME and AFL-CIO, Iron Workers, IBEW, GLS, the Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters and Millwrights, 7 of our 9 county commissioners, and many other elected officials. For this support, I am both humbled and grateful. I was educated in the Flint Community Schools. I graduated from Flint Northern High School, the University of Michigan Flint, and the Thomas and Cooley Law School. I have been licensed to practice law for 34 years and have been in good standing with the Michigan State Bar for the entirety of my licensure. I'm a product of my environment. I can't explain or define who I am as a person without reflecting on my childhood, which deeply shaped me. My childhood neighborhood was diverse, both racially and socio-economically, where blacks, whites, and people of other color lived together harmoniously. They were doctors, teachers, librarians, accountants, hourly General Motors employees, and homemakers. We respected each other, and we looked out for one another. I was raised to judge others based on character and to treat others the way I want to be treated. I was raised to respect authority. I was raised to believe that I can achieve anything that I wanted to achieve. I was taught the value of hard work, and that hard work would pay off. Every Saturday morning when I was a kid, I got up at 6 o'clock every morning, and I did everybody's chores in the house. One day my father, I didn't mind doing it, I liked the quiet time on Saturday mornings. One day my father approached me as I was washing dishes, and he said, I know your sisters don't do their chores, but don't worry about them. You'll be rewarded. I spent many years wondering what my father meant and waiting for a reward until one day I realized that I'm living that reward. I've been working hard for my family and for the families of Genesee County for many years. I've been serving the community as a family division referee for more than 21 years, longer than any sitting judge or probate judge. So attorneys come before me in the family division who represent defendants and plaintiffs. They argue cases in front of me, and I apply the law, make rulings on their arguments pertaining to evidence, and then I make the recommendation to the judge. I make a decision as a result. So attorneys practicing law come before me to make decisions in their cases for the judges. I have heard thousands of family court cases over the years, including custody, parenting time, child support, child abuse and neglect, and juvenile delinquency matters. I've sat on many of our family court judges' benches, cleared their dockets, effectively managing their courtrooms. I've taken calls from law enforcement officers and child protective service workers in the middle of the night and made the tough decisions as to whether children should be removed from home environments. Those decisions are not always easy, but I have made them in the middle of the night, and I still get up and go to work in the morning and be on time. I have done all this while maintaining an impeccable record with the Judicial Tenure Commission. I also served as a magistrate for the city of Flint for 6 years. That totals 27 years of competent decision making. That's what judges do. They make decisions in a quasi-judicial capacity. I have all of those years behind me. I ask for your support not only because of my experience and credentials, but also because of my exceptional ability to balance the needs of children, the rights of parents, and the public safety fairly. I want to help our children navigate this difficult world. The new judge will be assigned to the family division of the court. Genesee County doesn't have an African-American female in its family division. After Judge Bell vacates her seat, Genesee County will not have an African-American on its circuit court bench. Genesee County has never elected a black lawyer in an open election to a circuit court seat. So this will be a historic election. I strongly believe that diversity on the court is a key element of achieving fairness and true justice. I don't ask you to support my candidacy because I'm black. I've done the work to earn your trust and respect. The reward for me is your vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, candidates. Well, folks, with that, I'll give Ms. Ricks the mic. You good? All right, Ms. Ricks then.
So it's running out of time.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. I would like to thank Dylan. He was a wonderful moderator. Please give him a round of applause. Dylan and Keela Geiser, my vice president. She is amazing, and her beautiful my beautiful goddaughter, Alexandria Geiser. She was our timekeeper. We have Donna Ricks, tech support, and Judge Herman Marable donated the water that many of you are enjoying tonight. And Shanta Price has been really nice letting me go over. She's always, she goes above and beyond. She is the best community school director I have ever encountered. Thank you so much to all of our participants and for our residents for enduring this heat and staying with us. Thank you so much.
Because it was hot. For me and the family, I think this was a needy event that was still dealing Luna. It's full of shit. They didn't want the people to clap in here, which I ain't never seen no shit like this before.
Yes, you have in council.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, you can't clap in council.
You can't clap in council. You can't walk in council. You can't do shit in council.
So we basically just had a council, a city of Flint just threw this whistle, man, with a wife of the mayor didn't have to show up. But this Flint.
She's still silent. Uh-oh. Kwana May, you can talk in here.
I'm going to tell you shit.
We see y'all, family.
We doing good.
What up, Kawanda?
We couldn't clap.
I know it. I said, I'm going to tell you shit. Y'all probably